Hello. Hi. Welcome back to the channel, or welcome if you've never been here before. Today, I just want to do kind of a chill, more relaxed video. Laid back, in our PJs, get comfy, and I just want to talk about some books because I've had a bone to pick with a couple of these books. And in one book in particular, my bone has been thoroughly picked. The bone I've been wanting to pick with it has grown. I don't know. But the more and more I watch videos about this specific book I'm thinking of, the more I want to talk about it. Because, I mean, I'm sure you guys already know what book I'm talking about if you've seen the thumbnail. But we'll get to that when we get to that. But for right now, we're gonna go ahead and talk about books that I've read recently enough that have just disappointed me. And I just did not, either I didn't like them, I didn't finish them, or I was expecting more and I was let down. And that's just it. That's what we're gonna be talking about. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. So I have my reading journal, and after I finish reading a book, write down a little bit of a summary and what I thought about it in my reading journal. So that's what we're gonna be doing. We're gonna be referencing this and going along with my thoughts. The first one is, I don't actually have a copy of it because I borrowed it from my sibling. It is No Country for Old Men by Cormac McCarthy. Now, this book disappointed me. I rated it 3 stars because, and I don't really rate anything less than 3 stars in this video. Any of the books that I'm talking about, none of them are less than 3 stars. And to me, 3 stars is still pretty good. But with this book specifically, I was disappointed because I was expecting more. Like, the story itself is very interesting, and I was like, yes, I'm here for this. Kind of like some violence, killings, and like all this action going on. It just falls kind of flat. Like, it's not very detailed at all. And I'm someone who also likes to read about what the main character or any of the characters are thinking, you know, their perspective. I'm not the biggest fan of third person unless it's done very well. That wasn't what this book was, unfortunately. So we did have to deal with that. So for this one, I wrote that it was very simplistic and it skips a lot and it isn't too detailed. Yes. So this book is basically about a guy named Llewellyn Moss, and he's in the desert and he stumbles upon a car crash and he sees that there is a briefcase amongst the rubble that has $2 million in cash in it. And he's like, oh fuck, that's a lot of money. I don't know what to do now. So he keeps it. And it just follows him just trying to figure out what he's gonna do. He keeps hopping from place to place to place because he knows that it's part of some sketchiness, some drug deal, something suspicious, and he knows that that's what's going on. So it's just following him, hopping from place to place, trying to avoid whoever is looking for this briefcase with $2 million in it. And so it follows his perspective a little bit. It jumps to the sheriff who is trying to figure out, you know, this car crash, where this money is, all this stuff. So it follows Sheriff Bell and Sheriff Wells. And then it also follows the guy that is looking for the briefcase that the briefcase is supposed to go to. He's supposed to have that money. And I don't really know how to pronounce his name. I actually don't know how to pronounce his name, but there you go. So it is kind of like an old-timey, action, sketchy filled moment. It is very interesting. The premise, if that interests you, yes. But there just wasn't enough that they could have given you. You know what I mean? It would kind of just tell you what's going on, and then that's it. That's all. Just, okay, Moss walked up to the store and he said this thing to the clerk. Next chapter. And then it's like, okay, what? Like, I don't know. I just did not enjoy it as much as I thought I was. My sibling kind of thought I was gonna enjoy it because they had to read it for a class, and they told me that apparently towards the end, the author kind of falls into a little bit of like stream of consciousness or like a train of thought type of writing style, and he stops using punctuation and, you know, grammatical errors or thrown throughout, all that, but I honestly did not even notice it. So maybe that's just me. Hey, you know what? That is very plausible. Maybe that's just my fault. I just was not smart enough, but disappointed. It could have been interesting, but it kind of just told you like this thing happened. That's it. Like no description at all. Just this person got shot. That's it. Bye. And I'm like, okay, like how did you feel? What did it look like? You know what I mean? Where were you at? Like, you know what I mean? Like more description was necessary, but it just was not there for me. 3 stars. Very disappointed in that. All right, so the next book that disappointed me, and I'm actually very upset that it disappointed me, is The Color Purple by Alice Walker. Now, I have a whole reading vlog on this book if you want to go ahead and check that out and see like my initial thoughts. I was intrigued because, first of all, The Color Purple is also a musical, and I was like, yes, we're here for it. And I love, you know, African American like literature that is set in like rural south of North America, if you know what I mean, like Georgia, Arkansas, Louisiana, like that type of stuff in like the 20th century. And that's exactly what this is. It depicts the lives of African American women in the early 20th century rural Georgia. Separated as girls, sister Sally and Nettie sustain their loyalty to and hope in each other across time, distance, and silence through a series of letters spanning 20 years, first from Sally to God, then from the sisters to each other. The novel draws readers into a rich and memorable portrayal of Black women, the pain and struggle, companionship and growth, resilience and bravery. There are trigger warnings for this, like major. It is actually very, very sad. And that's kind of why I was disappointed, because it didn't really seem like it was gonna get any better, and it honestly didn't until the very last chapter, very last page is when it was like, okay, this is like fine, I guess. There is, you know, talks about domestic and sexual abuse, just all that jazz, a little bit of racism. I put Sally has a shit life, like straight up, and it is honestly very traumatizing. Like this book, you really need to read like trigger warnings online about this book. Please, if you're gonna ever read this. It is very sad. I gave this 3.5 stars because I did enjoy some parts of it, and there are quotes, and they talk a little bit about like religion and God and stuff like that, but it's not in a bad way, I guess. They just are learning about it, and that's about it. It is a book about trying to appreciate little things, but it kind of sucks ass because the 2 sisters, Sally and Nettie, are not with each other. It's sad. Like they write to each other, and they're hoping that the letters can get to each other because they haven't talked in like years and years and years since they were children. Eventually they do, and it just takes a long ass time for them to write letters to each other. It spans over 20 years, and it's just sad, sad, sad all the way through. Everything about the main character, Sally, everything about her life is fucking depressing, straight up. She has a terrible life, and it does not get better. And also there is some gayness in there. That was the redeeming quality, to be completely honest. It's just sad. Like, she's never really known happiness in this entire book, and then it just, everything goes to shit. And then right when she feels like things are going her way, it just goes back to bad again. I just don't like reading depressing ass books like that. Don't get me wrong, it was written very well. Obviously it is like a classic. It was written very well, and there were some beautiful quotes and lines in there, but I think it was just too sad. It was very descriptive. Like, this is a good book. 3.5 stars is pretty good. Race, racism, sexism, and sex are all explored, and sexual identity. And then eventually lots of characters, and it became too confusing. So just keep that in mind if you do want to read this book, because it is very sad, depressing, and it doesn't really get any better, but that's kind of the point of it. But like, it does get better. I will say that it does get better, but it takes a long ass time. Like seriously, this book is 286 pages, and it finally gets better at the very end. All this drama goes on too that don't even involve the two sisters, and I'm kind of just like, I don't care about them. No offense. Like, I do care about them, but not enough for me to be like, oh my gosh, what's gonna happen with them? I'm like, I'm here for the two sisters and the sister love, not for these random characters. Next, we have, it looks like it's a giant book, but it's not. It's just one of those Barnes & Noble classic books. But next, we have Phantom of the Opera by Gaston Leroux. This is a giant book. But no, it's actually a very short story, but this is like other gothic tales, so it has a bunch of like other, love this. Like, she is so cute and beautiful and amazing, spectacular. We love her. Something that was kind of annoying too is that the book, Phantom of the Opera, was at the very back. So I was like, okay, so you couldn't have put it in the middle so I can at least have even pages on both sides. No, but there we go. There's that. This, it was just okay. You know, there were just parts that were just confusing, just straight up confusing. But if you do want description, like Phantom of the Opera will give you description, which is good, especially if you're gonna have like a gothic tale and scary story like Phantom of the Opera. But it was kind of just like, what? Why is this happening? Is this supposed to be scary? It's very random. There were parts in there that I was like, this just doesn't make sense. Yes, I was trying to visualize it because I have seen the musical and I have seen the movie, and it's my favorite musical of all time. I love Phantom of the Opera. I would die for Phantom of the Opera. However, I don't understand, like, I was trying to visualize like one of those sets to help me, you know, imagine what's going on, and I just couldn't do it. Like, it was just too confusing as to like what is actually happening. Like, there was a room and another room and then a basement, and then you go upstairs and you're above and you're on the roof, and then you're in the desert, and then it's like, I think it's supposed to be like some weird psychological thing, and I never really understood or got to figure out if the Phantom of the Opera isn't actually a ghost or not. Like, I truly just don't know. I really don't know if he's a ghost or not. I think that's what it's supposed to be. Like, you're supposed to be like, oh, is he real or isn't he? But okay, so this book, it kind of follows these two, I don't know what they're called, like investors. These two men who just bought this opera house. They just bought this beautiful, amazing opera house from these other previous owners. And the previous owners are like, hey, by the way, you have to give a third of the paycheck to the Phantom of the Opera. And the new owners are like, what the fuck? Like, that's so stupid. What are you talking about? And they're like, the Phantom of the Opera will do terrible things and kill people unless you give him some money every month. Every month you have to pay this guy. And they're like, that is literally the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my entire life. I'm not doing that. And chaos ensues. Okay, we have a lady called Madame Geary who talks to the Phantom of the Opera. She's kind of like the speaker for him. You know, he writes letters and she's like, Phantom of the Opera is peeved off at you guys. You better pay him. And they're like, what the fuck? Like, you just want the money. Like, you're the lady that just wants the money. She's like, oh my God, no, it's not me. It's the Phantom of the Opera. Upon all of that, there is our main character, Christine Daae, who is a dancer who gets her breakout role when Phantom of the Opera literally tries to kill / just embarrass the previous main girl in this play that is going on. He tries to basically embarrass her because she's kind of has a big fat ego and is just super annoying and hates everyone. And he's like, I hate you and I'm in love with Christine Daae. So he gives Christine Daae like vocal lessons, just hypnotizes her into believing that he's not like a creepy guy, I guess, and she becomes the main lead. So all of that is going on. We also have Raoul, who is a childhood friend of Christine. He's in love with her and she's like, thanks, but I can't date anyone because the Phantom of the Opera won't let me. And he's like, ghost won't let you date. Okay. Right. So you just tell me you don't like me. You know what I mean? So a lot is going on. A lot. Very interesting. And I already love the movie and musical Phantom of the Opera. So I was like, I love this. But I was reading it and I was like, who the hell is this guy? Who the heck is, wait, where are we at right now? Like, what does this have to do with anything? Like, is he dead? Is he not? Like, I just did not understand it. And maybe that's just me and my smooth pea brain, but who knows? I gave this 3 stars, but it is like an amazing story. So maybe I would bump it up to like 3.5. But I just, if you want to be confused, read this. There's long ass monologues too, where they don't really describe things that are happening when they happen. They describe them after it happened, which I don't really know if I like that too much. I'd rather you just tell me like while it's happening. I'd rather it be like, tell me in the moment, you know? And they don't really do that. So there you go, Phantom of the Opera. Okay, next we have probably my most controversial take. And I'm so sorry for this, but I'm also not. This is all subjective, all right? So take this what you will. But next we have The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. This is the book that I have been growing more of a bigger bone to pick the more I watched YouTubers rave about this book. First, let's get this out of the way. Beautiful cover, like amazing, beautiful cover. I love it, love it, love it, love it. And even like the hardback is beautiful. Like we love the white with the gold foil right there. We love to see it. Unfortunately, I just did not like this book. And I've been trying to wrap my brain around what specifically, because I do know why I don't like this book. It is just cringy writing. Like the writing is not realistic to how people actually think or talk, and it pisses me off. Like it truly does. This is kind of the same thing as No Country for Old Men, where the story is interesting. Like this woman has an interesting life. However, there were just parts that I was like the way it was just told, I was like, stop talking like that. And I don't know if that's just me or not, but I was like, literally, people don't talk like this. This is just not realistic. And it kind of just pisses me off. People are obsessed with this book. They are obsessed with this writing. And I'm like, how? Literally how? I had no quotes, nothing about it was like, okay, this is quotable, this is a good ass line, I can't believe you wrote that. Like, it was just like, am I supposed to just throw my life away because of this person? Of course not. But blah, blah, blah. It's like, hey, no one asked. Like, just say, I'm not gonna throw my life away for this one person. You know what I mean? Like, little things like that. So, I'll give a brief description since pretty much everyone on the planet probably knows what this is about. But if you don't, this book is about Hollywood starlet named Evelyn Hugo, who has had 7 husbands. And she finally decides, after she's like, I don't know, like 70 years old, she's like, okay, I'm gonna tell this one girl, this one reporter, my life story. I'm gonna sell it to her so she can sell it and make money, make all that bank. And everyone's like, okay, so there's a little bit of mystery of like, why are you choosing this random girl? Because they don't know each other, and it's not like she's a famous reporter. So there's a little bit of like, why the heck are you choosing this girl? There's also just like her life, you know, Evelyn Hugo's life. Like I said, she's had a very interesting life, lots of shit going on. But I'm the type of person where like things about me, I hate enemies to lovers, like that trope. I hate it. I can't stand it. It is not my problem if you don't know how to love. Like, not to be that bitch, but it is just not my problem that you guys just can't admit you like each other. Like, I'm not here for it. That is not my problem. Just tell me you like me. If you're not gonna tell me you like me, like, I just don't have the time for it. And that's just how I am. That vibe, because there aren't really like enemies to lovers in this, but like take that vibe and put it in here. Like people that just can't be public and tell each other that they love each other. And it's like, okay, I understand, because there are like gay in here. Yeah, so there are gay LGBTQ characters, and we love to see it. And I understand like the circumstance, because this is kind of taken place in like this, like, you know, 50s, 60s, 70s, like it's talking about her whole life. So it's like 80s, 90s, you know, all that jazz. And I understand homophobia is alive and real. But if one person is like, hey, like, I don't care, like, we're gonna do this together, you know, I'm also a famous person, so my reputation's kind of on the line too, but like, let's go ahead and do this because we just love each other and like, we don't need anything but each other. And Evelyn just can't do it. Like, I'm sorry, this is, okay, like, little bit of a spoiler, sorry, but like, I just can't stand that she's still like, yes, I do love you, but also, like, I'm not gonna do that, and my reputation's more important. I'm like, fuck you. Fuck you. Like, you're so stupid. That is the stupidest thing I've ever heard, which is kind of why it reminds me of, like, enemies to lovers tropes, because it's like, yes, I could just be honest and tell you that I love you, but I'm not going to. That's what Evelyn is. She's like, yes, I could just tell the world that I'm gay and that men are stupid, but I'm not gonna do that because my reputation's more important. It's like, girl, and the way they describe it, she's had so many flops, and I'm like, is she even that famous? Like, let's be honest. Like, they talk in this book about like 3 movies that were like hits that she's been in, and like, that's it. And I'm like, is your reputation really that big of a deal? Like, are you even that famous? Like, no offense, but I just could not vibe with her as a character. I don't know. So just trigger warning for that. Homophobia is major in this book. Like, major, major, major. And I just cannot stand people that just can't be honest with themselves. I just can't do it. You know what I mean? It just pisses me off. And to top it all off, the way that the main character, aka the reporter, is connected to Evelyn Hugo is so fucking stupid. It's so dumb. They set up this whole thing of this big romance between these 2 guys, and it was like a whirlwind. It was so emotional. It was beautiful. And then one of them dies. Sad, sad, sad. And also, like, no, Evelyn is just a terrible person. Like, she just is a bad person. And I hate reading about people that are just bad people. And I'm like, am I supposed to root for you? This book is called The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. So I would think I would have to be rooting for Evelyn Hugo, but I don't like her. She's just a bitch, like, straight up. And you know what? Maybe that's just the whole thing of it. You know, maybe we're supposed to be like, oh my God, she's a bitch. She lived a crazy life. That's cool if you're into that. I'm not into that. Like, I don't want to read about bitches. You know what I mean? I want to read about hot girlies that make good decisions, which is kind of why I can't do full out romance books, because people, like, those romance books ride off of people making bad decisions and not knowing how to cope with their feelings. And I don't like that. You know what I mean? I understand not being able to cope with your feelings, and I can't do the yes, I love you, but like, I'm still gonna do all this other stuff too that's gonna piss you off and make you uncomfortable. It's like, okay, so you don't love her then. Like, stop doing these things that make your girlfriend uncomfortable. Like, that's not cute. You know what I mean? So, I don't know. It just pisses me off that she makes her girlfriend go through all this crap so that she can just still be like the #1 starlet or like whatever, the main girly. And it's like, I just hate it. Like, who cares? Like, who freaking cares? I just don't like her. And also, along with that, like I already said, the writing is bad. Like, it's just bad, straight up. It is so cringy. People just don't talk like this, because I understand she's supposed to be kind of like telling the reporter like this. Like, we're supposed to be reading it like she's talking to the reporter. Like this, okay. I thought it might just be good enough to change lives, to get people clean. It might just be good enough to change the way movies are made. So I sacrificed. People don't talk like that. People just don't talk like that. And I understand she's trying to tell her stuff, but it's just like, you could take that and phrase it another way. And yeah, all in all, the way the main character is connected to Evelyn Hugo is so stupid. They set up this whole romance, and it's actually like some other guy that the main character likes at the end. That they dated for like not that long. And that's it. That's all. She's also just like a bitch, and she like framed this reporter's dad that he got in a car crash, and this is not true. And it's just so stupid, very cringy. What did I write? Very cliche. It was good, but not as good as it could be. At the end, I wrote, it's just like, why? You know? So that's exactly how I feel about this. Just why? That was my bone to pick. Like, I just needed to get that off of my chest. I'm sorry. And you know what? I don't want to take away if other people love this book, because I understand why people people will like it. The story is interesting, but if you want good writing, I don't really vibe with this and I won't get it. And you know what? That's okay. That's just me. That's just how it is, all right? I'm sorry about it. All right, lastly, but certainly not least, is a book that I didn't even finish. Straight up. I just did not even finish it. And that is Cat's Cradle by Kurt Vonnegut. I got to page 92, and there are 287 pages in this. So not even halfway through. I mean, not even halfway through. Do you want to ask me what this is about? Because I don't know. I don't even know what this is about. And I'm upset because I got this kind of for like my fiance because he loves Kurt Vonnegut and he especially likes this book. And he told me if you want to start with Kurt Vonnegut, you should start with Cat's Cradle. And me, I was like, really? Because I kind of want to start with Slaughterhouse-5. Me being my historical fiction hoe self, I was like, I want to start with Slaughterhouse-5. He was like, no, you gotta start with Cat's Cradle. I was like, okay. And I don't know what this is about. Cat's Cradle is a satirical commentary on modern man and his madness. Apocalyptic tale of this planet's ultimate fate. It features a midget as the protagonist, a complete original theology created by a calypso singer, and a vision of the future that is at once blackly fatalistic and hilariously funny. A book that left an incredible mark on an entire generation of readers. It's one of 20th century's most important works. Okay, even just reading that, okay, so do you know what it's about now? No, like, I can't tell you what is going on. Like, this guy's trying to, this midget scientist, or like, he had a weird life. I don't know. I could not get into it. I gave it a fair shot. You know, I was, 80 pages in there, 88 pages. It does have very short, like, chapters though, which we do love to see. Like, it's like every other page is like chapter end. So we do love to see that. And it's not a very long book, but I'm just like, hey, what's going on? I gave it a fair shot. I think it may just be like his writing style maybe, but also like the premise is like, what does that even mean? Midget as protagonist, a complete original theology created by a calypso singer, and a vision of the future. What does that even mean? I don't know. So I didn't finish this because I was like, yes, I could keep going with this, but life is too short to read books that I just don't vibe with. And I just did not vibe with this one. Kurt Vonnegut's books look beautiful all the time. We love the blue, but I think if I'm gonna read a Kurt Vonnegut, I'm gonna start again with Slaughterhouse-5 because that seems more up my alley, to be completely honest. And that, my friends, those were the books that I was disappointed in, that I didn't like, that I didn't vibe with. Don't take any of this to heart, because if you love these books, that is awesome. Reading is important and cool, and we love to see it. But this is just my opinion. I didn't vibe with them, and I just wanted to share my opinion with you guys. I really love talking about books. I'm so glad that you guys were here with me on this journey. So thank you for coming along with me. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, do all of that jazz, and as always, thanks for watching.